So students, today uh, today I will discuss the subunit new social and political changes part 2. And you have already read in previous class about the first portion of the subunit, that is the new social and political groups, and you have already learned that how did the people they acquired the new food and beverages, they acquired new technologies between 700 to 1750 AD. Now today we are going to discuss the rest of the portion, that how did some people also they started living in Indian subcontinent coming from outside and change their habitat. So before starting the class, all the students are requested to mention their name in the chat box. I will take your attendance from that portion. And I am also asking some question. So I will ask some question. If you know the question, write in the chat box from previous class. Okay, so tell me that which food crops came from South America in the time of in the medieval period between 700 to 750. Which food crops came from South America in South America to India in the medieval period? Which food crops? I have mentioned four food crops, some vegetables also. So tell me the name of any one food crops that came from South America to India. Potatoes, very good, Vinayak. This is potatoes, chilies, corn, tomatoes, etc. And the beverages such as tea is coming from which country? Tea. Okay, so can you tell me that tea is originated in which country? From which country tea came to India? Nepal? No, it's not Nepal. China? Yes. So you are absolutely correct. It is China. So tea came from China, and coffee also introduced by the Portuguese, and it was from Africa. So let's begin our today's class. That at that time, that clearing of forests, some people they came from outside and started living in those regions full with forests, and the extension for agriculture, they cut the trees and started living on that region. It is from page number 8. Okay, open page number 8. Vinayak, it is page number 8 of your first chapter, that is tracing changes through 1,000 years. So what happened after? The new peasant groups, they gradually began to be influenced by the regional markets. So already at the time regional market exists, and they also influenced by the regional markets, they started purchasing the goods that at the time sold by the people of the local region. They also influenced by the chieftains or the ruler who ruled that region, also influenced by the priest, monasteries and temples. The such as Buddhism also. At the time you have read in class 6 that Buddhism also popular before 700 AD. So at the time lot of monasteries also there, and temples also. So they also influenced by those religions and those people who preached those religions, such as the priests and monks. They were required to pay, as well as they were required to pay regular taxes and offer goods and services to local lords. Local lords mean local landlords or chieftains. They had to pay taxes and offer goods. Sometimes they had to pay the tribute to the local temples, and socio-economic differences emerged among these peasants, and people grouped into jatis or subcastes and ranked on their occupations and backgrounds. So people grouped into jatis on subcaste and ranked on the occupations and backgrounds. So today you can see the lot of jatis also there in our society. So the origin of those jatis actually long ago happened on. If you have any question, you can ask me. Shubhajit Ghosh, if you have any question, you can ask me. Okay. And ranks on societies varied according to their power and influence and resources controlled by them. But those ranks were not fixed permanently, such as some example given in your book. Some possessed more productive land, some people got unproductive land. Some people kept cattle, some cattle means cow, buffaloes, etc. And some combined artisanal work with agricultural activity during the lean season. Lean season means when the agricultural season was in the between the agricultural season. You know that cropping season is almost such as 3 months to 6 months. So between this period they have no work. So what happened at that time? Those people involved in some artisanal work, the work of blacksmith, goldsmith, mason, etc., or other crafts persons, the work of other crafts persons. So in this way the society became more differentiated, and people were grouped into jatis or subcastes and ranked on the basis of their backgrounds and their condition, occupations. So in this way people grouped into different jatis as per their occupation, such as goldsmith, blacksmith, the potter, the peasant, the agricultural labor, the landlords, and those who have protected the land and ruled them. They are the chieftains or rulers, and those people involved in teaching and research and writing those books, manuscripts, those were known as the Brahmin, and people respect these peoples. So in this way jati formed their own rules and regulations to manage the conduct of their members. Except this, some jatis also there, those who have involved in the cleaning activities, such as they clean the garbages and they maintain the cleanliness of the society. Those people termed as untouchables. There's most of, because later on they were labeled with untouchables, because they most of the time they were very much dirty, because they worked with the garbages and all these things. So that's why people not allowed them in their house. So sometimes in this way some Jati system also emerged. But later on, if their son and daughter not involved on these activities, they also behaved in the similar way, and in this way in society some untouchability and this Jati system, this is emerged. Okay. And Jati formed their own rules and regulations to manage the conduct of their members, and the regulations imposed by an assembly of elders and experienced persons of the particular Jati known as Jati Panchayat. So what is Jati Panchayat? The regulations imposed by an assembly of elders and experienced persons known as Jati Panchayat. So several Jati Panchayat followed the rules of their villages. Several villages ruled by a chieftain. Together they were only a small unit of a state. In this way, some Jati Panchayat formed a village, and some villages, several villages ruled by a chieftain also formed a small unit or a district of a state. And those big states actually ruled by any big ruler or king. So now I think you have understood this one. Now the next subunit is the region and empire. So at the time, large states like those of Cholas, Tugluks and Mughals, they encompassed many regions. Encompass means they ruled many regions together. So there is an example that in chapter 2, for an example of given Prasasti, a Sanskrit Prasasti praising the Delhi Sultan Ghiyasuddin Balban, written on manuscripts or on a pillar, explained that he was the ruler of a vast empire that was from Afghanistan, the place known as Gajana, which is our today's India, okay, more or less this is our today's India. And what happened, this portion, it is in Pakistan and this is Afghanistan. So Gajana is like here. So though at the time these boundaries are not present, the entire place is Indian subcontinent. This Bangladesh also not there. This is all Nepal, all these things in Indian, part of Indian subcontinent. So what happened? The Ghiyasuddin Balban's territory was said from here, from Gaura to Dravida. So it's a huge area also controlled by Ghiyasuddin Balban. But historian says this claim of Ghiyasuddin Balban and mentioned in a Prasasti written in Sanskrit language is exaggerated. It is not true. Exaggeration means writing something that was not exact actually. So, because, and also mentioned in that Prasasti that people of these regions, of these vast regions, divided into some small territories such as Gaura, Andhra, Kerala, Karnataka, Maharashtra, Gujarat, the people fled before his armies. So people of these regions and the local rulers of these regions actually fled before his armies. So he was so much powerful. But historians denied this fact, because at the same time they try to understand why rulers kept claiming to have control over different parts of the subcontinent. Why did they claim so? So by 700, many regions already possessed distinct geographical dimensions and their own language and cultural characteristics. And they were also associated with specific ruling dynasties, and they were fighting with each other all the time. I have mentioned the name of these dynasties previously, such as when the Gupta dynasty declined, you have read in class 6, that after that what happened? Palas, Pratihar, Rashtrakuta dynasty fighting with each other. No Ishika, no need to draw, just listen. So what happened? Occasionally some dynasties, except those small rulers and small dynasties, some big dynasties such as Cholas, Khiljis, Tughlaqs, Mughals, they were able to build empire that was pan-regional empire. So what is the meaning of pan-regional empire? That pan-regional empire means spanning over diverse regions, like in the map that the dynasty mentioned in the Prasasti, that was a pan-regional empire ruled by Ghiyasuddin Balban. But Mughal Empire also very big at that time and expanded almost all these regions, including Gujarat and all these. So at a time Mughal Empire also expand their territories in this way. Okay, so this is the territory of Mughal Empire. So you can see how big it is in the time of Akbar and Aurangzeb. It was very big. So the other rulers, the other dynasties such as Cholas also established a powerful kingdom from Bengal to the eastern coast of India and entire South India. And they are staying, like Tughlaqs, they are staying 94 years, the Mughals staying 331 years. So when they are staying such a long period, what happened after Mughals? So they have some influence in the local culture, their economy, in their language, etc. So when Mughals also declined, the Mughal Empire declined, they also divided into some small territories in different part of the subcontinent. Such as the Marathas in this Bengal, that is in Hyderabad was there, okay, in Punjab, here in Jat state, in this way, in Awadh. So in this way it was divided into some small kingdoms. But pan-regional empire changed their features. This is apparent in the emergence of many distinct and shared traditions. But some of the traditions and cultural features were the same, though they were divided into small territories, such as the management of economy. How did they manage their economic system? The coins, taxation system, the introduction of the currency or coins, the land revenue assessment system, the agriculture irrigation system, as well as the judgment system. In languages such as in Bengali, Hindi and other Indian languages, there are 1,000 Arabic, Persian words are there, because Persian was the official language of the Mughals. And also many cultural traditions also we also follow today, even today also, from those pan-regional empires. So in 1,000 years they did not grow in isolation, but those small regions also, in the time of this pan-regional empire, they also grew individually. They also maintained their own cultures, such as the Marathi people in Maharashtra. They also retained their own cultures, their own festivals are there. Ganesh Utsav, Shivaji Utsav was there, Guri Parva was there. In Bengal, their Novoborsho and the other festivals. These are the religious. In Punjab, their Vaishakhi. Okay. In South India, their Pongal, their Onam, their own festivals. And not only festivals, their food habits also distinct. So in this way, they not grow in isolation. They have their own cultures, as well as they acquired the culture of the pan-regional emperors such as Mughals, Cholas, Tughlaqs, etc. So their regimes wanted a big pan-regional power without losing their diversity. And they always wanted a big pan-regional power without losing their diversity. So later on, the British, when they attacked India and they ruled almost 190 years, fulfilled their desire because they always wanted a big empire, and that's why in today, after the 75 of independence, India, despite different variations and different features and diversity, we are united. Okay, so you will read in detail that in class, in your civics book. Okay, first chapter, unity, and so I think you have already read that one, the first chapter of your civics book. Okay, okay, just see, no need to draw the map, only for understanding I have drawn this map. Okay, so that's all from our today's class. I hope you have understand. So next class I will discuss the another subunit, is the old and new religions. Okay, thank you everyone, bye.